So if you've worked your way up from being a tech, an IT professional, developer, and you're now working your way into management, well, I'm sure you have worked to some extent with external stakeholders. Anybody that is external to your organization, you've probably worked with them in some capacity. And we're specifically focusing on this video around vendors, suppliers. You want to have good relationships with your vendors and suppliers. Now, the next video is going to go a little bit more into signing up specific contracts and service agreements. But here we're specifically talking about, hey, I need some equipment. I want some new hardware, some new software. You have a pool of vendors, a pool of suppliers that you would use on a regular basis. Some of these may be signed on a regular basis. You may need to sign some sort of a terms of business with them, the TOB, to sort of establish a relationship between you and the vendor. But it's very uncommon in most companies to go directly down to your local computer store and buy some computers from there, because you're going to be paying a lot more money and they may not have the bulk needed. You need 50 laptops, or you're not going to go down to your local store and buy them from there. You're going to go via a vendor or via a supplier to get that. Somebody that has gold partnerships with a whole heap of other suppliers, maybe directly with the big guys, with Microsoft, they've got deals with Apple, they've got deals with all these other companies, and they get amazing pricing because they got premium and gold and platinum agreements and all this sort of stuff in place. So you get the stuff from them and they get their stuff from somewhere else. So have some established relationships set up with suppliers and vendors. Don't have just one either, because you want to be a little bit competitive, where you have maybe 2 or 3, I'd say 3, and then you work off each other, because at the same time, you also want to get the best deal for your business, for where you work. You don't want to be ripped off. So having a few, and you ask for 3 quotes, that way you make sure that you're getting the best deal and that they're not screwing you over. Because if a supplier of yours knows that they are your only supplier, then they're more tempted to sort of jack the prices up, especially if you are always going to them for more and more equipment. So here's some terms and some processes that I would recommend you at least being across or being aware of, because when you do move into management, you're going to have to deal with this stuff a bit more and more. So we talked a little bit about procurement and working with vendors and suppliers, but you now need to understand a little bit around quotes. You're not going to go and just buy something. Most of the time, you're going to go and seek quotes. Of course, a quote is you're requesting a service, a hardware, some software from somebody. They're giving you a price. You do multiple ones of those. You then have purchase orders where you agree or you want a particular service from a vendor, from a supplier. So you send them a purchase order. Now, with purchase orders, for example, and the next one being invoices, of course, invoices you wanting to pay for something. There's a service that's been done or it's going to be done. You need to pay for that. Or purchase orders and invoices, to an extent, may be responsibility of the IT manager, but you're going to be working on these together with your finance team, of course, because you may need to work with a finance system that actually helps you raise purchase orders and invoices as well. So you may be having to raise these yourself with conjunction of your finance team, through some sort of a finance system and some sort of process that's probably already in place in an organization. Now, the other thing is around approval limits. So it's very unlikely that the IT manager, for example, will have unlimited access to buy whatever they want at whatever cost. So it's very common for a IT manager to be given a limit of what they can approve. So for example, they may have a limit of $10,000. They can go and buy things. Of course, if it's been approved in a budget, all that sort of stuff, they can go and buy a brand new server as long as it's under $10,000, and they can just go and do that themselves, raise the quotes, the POs, purchase orders, the invoices, and organize all of that. But in some cases, you may need to get escalation for an approval limit that is above your limit. So you may need to go to your boss, to your manager, to your director, to high levels of your senior management team, perhaps even a CEO if there's something that is a much higher approval limit. So a good example would be you having to go and refresh your storage unit, your SAN, full of disks. Well, that's going to potentially cost you tens of thousands of dollars. You may not have the approval limit to be able to go and do that. So you're going to need to go and get somebody else to organize or at least approve that so that you can then go and purchase it. We also talk about here reimbursements. So because you're going to be a manager, you're managing staff leave, all that sort of stuff. Or from time to time, you may need to be buying things with your own personal credit card, cash. Perhaps your staff members go out and buy something. You just need something and they go and buy it themselves. They may need a reimbursement. If you're having team meetings, perhaps you want to host a team meeting out and take everybody out for lunch. You may need to organize a reimbursement from the company to pay you back that money that was spent actually for business purposes. So they give you that money back because it's not a personal expense. So understanding what reimbursements are. Credit cards may be another thing, depends on the company, but sometimes an IT manager may be provided a credit card, sometimes they won't, but of course there'll be limits around the credit card use, but that may be something that an IT manager uses. So that's just a little bit there around procurement and some of the different terms that you should become familiar with. Now we're going to cover this is a little snapshot, but the next video goes into a little bit more detail around setting up service agreements and contracts.